No, absolutely not.
Why?
No sleeping. Okay,
No tiring.
so we're gonna start with a review problem just to get you guys into the math mood. I would like for us to factor this. Yes. So we don't just factor like normal anymore, and this is where a lot of you kind of messed up on your notes. You forgot that we were factoring special cases, and they have special rules that apply to them. So I need to determine which factors or which quadratics fit into those special cases and which ones don't. Hopefully this is somewhere in your brain already. However, it never hurts to review it. So this quadratic, for example, is a perfect square trinomial. I know it's a perfect square trinomial because my first term is a perfect square, and my third term is a perfect square. I also know it's a perfect square trinomial because my third term is positive, as what happens every time we square something, and my second term is 2 times each of these factors multiplied together. So 5 times 3 is 15, times p is 15p, times 2 is 30. So this is a perfect square trinomial, which means it's going to factor beautifully into the same thing twice. And when it factors into the same thing twice, I have the ability to rewrite it as that factor squared. Many of you forgot that we have special cases with special rules when you took this test or quiz or whatever it was. You cannot be forgetting that. If this is something you need to review before we have our test, please do so. I'm more than happy to give you practice problems if that's what you want.
But it says answer 3p minus 5.
Yes, that is that factored.
Oh,
Okay. So now we're going to do another practice just because you guys could use it. This time, we're going to simplify or solve 16x squared minus 5 equals 11. This is a quadratic, but it doesn't have 3 terms, so we don't necessarily have to factor it the way we've been always factoring. What can I do to solve this problem? Add the 5 to the right-hand side, which leaves me with 16x squared equals 16. Then what? Divide by 16 to isolate the x squared, which leaves me with x squared equals 1. I want to get x by itself, so I need to square root both sides. And I get x is equal to the square root of 1. What's the square root of 1?
1.
No. Positive and negative 1.
Oh.
Remember, when we're taking the square root of something, we have to include its positive version and its negative version. Because negative 1 times 1 is still 1. Just like positive 1 times positive 1 is 1.
Please mess me up. I don't know why the plus minus always. Yeah. It's that like some.
that when you factor this way,
Pretty much. Pretty much. Okay. So then when I write the solutions to quadratics, how do I write them? Or what do I write them in?
The
Curly brackets.
There it is.
These are my favorite. And we always write them smallest to largest. So now we're going to kind of put all of this together, and we're going to solve by completing the square. Grant, what's your question, hon? You're good? Okay. When it comes to completing the square, as I said, you guys are going to hate it at first. You might always hate it, but the more we do it, the easier it gets. So if you have a question, please ask it while we're doing it so I can address it and hopefully correct any misconceptions you have. Okay? Solving by completing the square is simply another way to solve a quadratic. So at this point, once we learn this, we're up to like 6 different ways that we can solve a quadratic, and they all kind of apply to specific types of quadratics that are a little bit easier. So this one is v squared plus 2v minus 24 equals 0. I want to solve this by completing the square. So I know I could factor it and it would turn out pretty nice, but I don't want to do that. I want to solve it this specific way. So when we are completing the square, the first step we always do is we move the constant to the other side of the equal sign. I want all my variables on one side and all my numbers on the other side. So this leaves me with v squared plus 2v equals positive 24 because I added it over. Once I've done that, I need to make sure there's nothing in front of my squared term. Okay, so I have a v squared with no number in front of it, so I don't have to divide anything out. If there was a number like a 2 here, I would have to divide every single term by 2. So I can't complete the square until there's nothing in front of my squared term. Make sure you remember that. Since there's nothing in front of it, I'm going to manipulate the left-hand side so it turns into a perfect square trinomial. By doing that, I will be able to factor the left-hand side into a factor squared, and then I can use square roots and everything to solve for x. So I like to call this my C term. I'm gonna use a different color. This C term is found a very specific way. So the way I find C is I go to my x term or my v term or my m term, just a single variable, and I split it in half. So my v term here is 2. Half of 2 becomes 1, and then I square that answer. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I'm going to replace my c term right there with positive 1.
I feel like whoever made that just started throwing stuff in and said, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. What I do to one side of the equal sign, I also have to do to the other because it keeps my equation in balance. So because I added 1 on the left, I also have to add 1 on the right.
So will your C value always be half of like the
It will always be half of this term squared every single time. Hold on, we're getting there. My right side becomes 24 plus 1, which is 25. My left side is a perfect square trinomial, so it's going to factor into v plus 1 times v plus 1, which I can rewrite as v plus 1 squared I'll pause.
A little bit confused now.
And then we're just going to solve for x. So if I'm trying to get x by itself, I need to get rid of the square that's on the outside of the parentheses. How do I do that? Square root, both sides. Because what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. A square and a square root cancel each other out, and I'm left with just what's inside the parentheses equals plus and minus square root of 25, which you guys just said is 5. So v plus 1 equals plus or minus 5. Last step, subtract the 1 over. So I get v equals negative 1 plus or minus 5. Just like we do with the quadratic formula, I then split this into 2 problems, negative 1 plus 5 and negative 1 minus 5, which gives me my 2 answers, 4 and negative 6, which I will then go ahead and put in my curly brackets. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. Negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6. How do we feel about this?
hard.
Well, there was only
There are a lot of steps.
There was only one part that I didn't know how you got. It was the v plus that part, like the after we got like
This or
Yeah.
this?
this part. Yeah, that part. Like
I just
from-
factored it. So what multiplies together to get 1 and adds to get 2? 1 and 1.
it multiplies to get 1.
And adds to get 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just factor that like normal.
Seems like one big giant riddle.
It is kind of. As I said, this is one of those things, the more we do it, the easier it gets.
Oh, so we have to also factor.
And I will say, if you're going into pre-calculus, we do this too.
I don't want to go into that.
No.
I'm just letting you know. Okay, but if you learned it this year, it won't be so hard next year. Let's go ahead and do another one. You don't have to love it. Saddens my heart, but you don't have to.
It's not super hard, but it's a lot of steps.
Yep.
This is
I like math that makes me feel like, I don't know, like satisfied. Like everything works out, you know what I mean?
Well, this one is beautiful.
I
Like,
know, but it just
it's
takes so many
complex,
steps.
but in the end, it's just so nice.
there's so much
Yeah, I like
work.
this.
You like addition?
Yeah.
I'm running out of paper.
Okay.
What's that?
So the quadratic I have now is r squared plus 6r minus 16 equals 0. I would like to solve by completing the square. So if I don't say solve by completing the square and I just say solve, you are free to solve it any way you see fit. But if I say by completing the square, I expect it done this way. What's the first thing I'm gonna do? Move the 16 over to the other side.
We're gonna be allowed to have a cheat sheet on the
Yes.
test, right?
Okay. Okay, before I do the C term, what do I need to check for? If there's a coefficient in front of my squared variable or number, that's what coefficient means. So if there's nothing in front of my squared, I don't have to do any division, so I'm free to find my C term. Remember, that C term is going to be the third term on the left-hand side, which makes this a perfect square trinomial. So to find that C term, I do what to my R term?
6 divided
Divided it by 1/2.
Divided it in half
times.
and then squared it. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. What I do to one side, I also have to do to the other. So now I have a plus 9 on the left and a plus 9 on the right. Give me a second. Yeah. The left side is a perfect square trinomial, so I know it's going to factor into the same number twice. So what multiplies together to get 9 and adds to get 6? 3 and 3, right? So this is going to factor into r plus 3 times r plus 3, which I can rewrite as r plus 3 squared. My right-hand side, I put together the 16 and the 9 to get 25. And then I solve it out. How do I get x by itself? Square root, which side?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Square root kid.
Square root and the square cancel each other out, which leaves me with an r plus 3 on the left. What's the square root of 25?
5.
Plus or minus.
Plus and minus 5. You cannot forget the positive and the negative versions. And then what do I do?
Minus 3 over, and then you have to get both answered.
Subtract the 3 over, which leaves me with r equals negative 3 plus and minus 5. I split it into my two answers. Negative 3 plus 5 is 2, and negative 3 minus 5? Negative 8. Technically, we should list the negative 8 first, but I'm not going to be a stickler.
I cannot draw that bracket thing.
That's okay. A lot of my other kids who have to draw it all the time, they just do this.
I would say that's kind of what mine
That's
was.
what I
Yeah.
do.
Or some people like to do like the 3s.
Mine just look like 3s.
Like I've been drawing them for years, so it's just something I do. But to each person, it doesn't really matter as long as I can tell you're trying. I know some people actually just do, and then they put like a little thing going on the outside. Okay. Mhm.
Whatever multiplies 9 adds 6.
Yes. It always multiplies to the third term, adds to the second term. I'm going to give you one that you're going to do on your own.
Oh, God.
We ready for this?
At least I don't have to show as much work.
Okay. Your problem to do on your own is r squared plus 14r minus 31 equals 7.
Oh, that's not much.
I did.
I'm getting up to get a calculator.
That's fine, they're up here if you guys need them. Don't trip over the.
You just help me real quick.
Of course.
I'm just confused about like the C part.
Well, I can't do the C part until I have only very big ones of working. So how am I gonna get that 31 with no
So
longer
I
on the line?
add this, and add my C. So it's that.
Yep, now keep going.
How do I open this?
There you go.
I bet it's gonna be a big one.
It's not gonna be super big, it's gonna be less than 100.
Less than-
Yeah, it'll be less than 100. Okay,
Wait.
so I'm gonna start working through it slowly, and you guys can kind of check your work as we go.
Hang on, I'm not. Like,
I was about to give it.
I'm gonna figure it out.
No.
One more minute. I'll give you one more
That's-
minute,
That's not good.
and then I'll write really, really slow.
Wait, is it?
Figure
This
it
should
out,
be.
Byron. What the heck?
I already think I'm better.
Wait, this should be a perfect.
This
What is it?
all that. I don't know where to get but that comes from-
Am I doing this right? I don't know.
Anybody else think I can?
Wait, no, I'm good.
I just can't hold them.
Okay, so how do I find this?
We'll go
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I think.
That's what I factor.
I think I did. Congratulations.
I want the factor in the first number.
The exception, the only reason why I get it is like that, that's not working
So I
out.
write
Clear.
all
Hey.
I write all the factors. And I'm gonna say.
86, 186.
This might be the one. I'm sleeping again. No,
Okay, I lied.
I'm really close.
Byron lied.
All right, Barbara, second on Harvard.
I got it.
He can't figure it out. He
The
can't
rest of the night, okay.
figure it out.
Okay.
Probably. I got halfway through the
Yeah, I did too.
I totally failed. I think
So
I
that's
got
the number I'm gonna put into.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm up to halfway.
No, some-
I got to the point where I had.
I'm like, seats back. He goes, no. As far as I get.
Well, keep going, come on, you got examples to follow.
I think I don't know what.
We got.
Follow the examples. What did we do on the previous one?
I don't know.
What's up, Miguel?
Where are we from?
This
It's fine.
this is not right. Should not be.
You don't know that.
What?
Nothing, no, nothing says that
Is
that's
it-
wrong.
Does it have to be a whole? Like I thought it said that it has to be a whole number.
Nope.
And what
Yes.
happens if we do get it a small?
What's your question?
Where on this?
Is it?
I need to show you. I don't know how to say it. Hold on.
Factor, so what multiplied together to get 9 is 3 times 3 is 9.
How many decimals?
No, we don't take the decimal.
No,
Nope, okay,
just the number.
I'm gonna start working through it, and I want you to check your work as I go, okay?
Can we fill in the parts that we got wrong, / like, didn't get yet? Just-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, I just want you to check and see how you're doing so far.
Is this all we're doing today?
Yes.
We're
Okay,
just
thank
all we're
God.
doing until like Friday.
We will finish it, let's say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we will finish the lessons on Thursday, it'll be due Friday, and we'll start a new lesson on Friday. So pretty much like normal.
Why is it not due Friday night?
It's just due Friday at midnight.
Oh.
Yeah. It's always due the day after we finish our lesson. That's what I always do. Okay, so I added the 31 over. I got r squared plus 14r equals 38. I know I have to make the left side a perfect square trinomial. So I have to put c in on the left. To make that c, I take the term before it, which is 14, and I split it in half. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and then I square that answer. 7 squared is 49. So I put 49 in on the left, and I put 49 in on the right. I know that the same number is going to be used in both of my factors. So 7 times 7 is 49, and 7 plus 7 is 14. So the left-hand factors in r plus 7 squared. And my right side
It's 87.
becomes 87.
Gotta square both of them.
So now when I square, when
Square
I
root.
solve for x, I root both sides.
I just keep on saying square, and I'm like,
Why do you use the 7?
Because 7 times 7 is 49.
Oh,
7 plus 7 is 14.
So it goes based on that number you got that you squared.
Mhm.
you just basically have to factor.
So it factored into this, and I just rewrote it as that squared.
Oh,
Can I tell you guys a secret?
Yes.
A perfect square trinomial is always going to factor into x plus or minus whatever half of this middle term was. Every single time. So half of 14 is 7. On our previous example, my middle term was 6, half of 6 was 3, and my factor was x plus 3. So it always factors into x plus or minus whatever half of that middle term is.
So if we can, if the middle term, we divide that, and
Yep,
then if
and
if
then you got your factor.
Yeah,
So now I have r plus 7 on the left equals positive negative square root of 87. Now I need to reduce 87. Can I take a perfect square out of 87?
no.
So it does not reduce and it will stay the square root of 87. That doesn't mean that I'm done here though. I still have to get my variable by itself. So I still have to subtract 7 over to the right hand side. And I get negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 87. I can't reduce that, so that is my answer. I do not want a decimal.
Well, it was kind of there.
So then my curly brackets are negative 7 minus root 87 and negative 7 plus root 87. Oh,
Yeah, no.
curly bracket.
I did that wrong. I completely forgot that you could have a.
Yeah.
I just
Are you gonna give us another one?
subtracted negative
Yes.
x. Cool. It's not gonna be any more difficult than that.
And then honestly, we're probably just gonna give you a break. We might do one more after that, but I don't want to overwhelm you. Yeah, we're gonna do 2 more and then we'll be done for today.
Are they gonna make us shut down again soon? 'Cause I'm really not trying to do virtual again.
I truly hope not because math is really hard to do online. I do believe at some point we will get shut down again just because we're heading really deeply into flu season. And with COVID, you have to get tested before you can come back, even if you just have the flu. At least that's what I've heard. So I think we're just gonna have a lot of people out from some sort of illness. So I think eventually we will shut down again. I hope not, and I hope it's not for a very long time. But I'm not holding my breath on that one.
Wait, but when's Thanksgiving break?
Not next week, but the week after, and it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
It's only 3
I
days.
don't know, for me personally, it was just a lot harder to learn.
And it is, and I get that, and I try to make it as much like the classroom as possible. So if you guys have any suggestions about how I could make virtual learning better, let me know.
Yeah, it was good. It's just the problem is that
It's just hard,
It's
yeah.
harder to do it, and then also what is it? That quiz, man, the lag. It was bad.
If I were to give another assessment over virtual, I would probably make it open note. I'm just gonna tell you that right away as well. Just to make it a little bit easier for you guys. Also, if we do virtual again, I will be doing attendance each week and it will be worth points. So I still have to put in your attendance for last week, but
The one that I missed, I thought it was supposed to be just e-learning. I didn't know it was like a whole virtual.
yeah, no.
So one day I just didn't.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you do another example and then we will do an example together and then we'll be done for today. But seriously, like if you have any suggestions about something another teacher did that worked better for you for virtual, let me know and I will be happy to incorporate it somehow. On your own, please solve this.
I sure hope that we can get the test for this unit done before if we do go back, because man, I really don't want to have to write this all out on a computer.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I don't get like a little box they give you to like get all your like squares.
Well, I also accept, like, if you'd rather do it on paper and send it in, I'm okay with that as
Yeah, I
well.
would rather.
Yeah, I got
Yeah, I'd rather
so many.
do
I'd rather do that.
Did you try using the box thing?
Yeah, I just.
It is rough, and sometimes it doesn't always show up, so I'm more than happy if we have an assessment on virtual in the future. If you just want to do it on paper and email it to me, I'm A-okay with that.
5-minute test.
Okay, solve this problem. Using completing the square.
That's also a thing that I hate on tests is where you just like you have to know what to use. You know what I mean?
If I don't say, It is up to you to decide. I'm always okay with that. Like if I want it done a specific way, it is my responsibility to put that in the instructions. Side note, because I hope this will make you guys smile as much as it made me. They make tiny window decks. Like, how cool is that? A student brought it in yesterday, and that literally made me cry tears of joy because it made me so happy.
That that the what?
Yeah, question for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't want that one, we do a lot of it. It's hard to go to like, once you have
I love it better like one.
I play it, so it's hard to go. So it's, we're gonna like play a lot.
Yep. Spirit, what's spirit 49?
But then how do I?
Alright, so I'm also gonna
Is it like when you guys
Yeah, you're not supposed to.
yeah.
have to.
That's how I like it.
Okay, I'm getting decimals for this. I'm getting a decimal for this.
I'm ready for one.
Okay,
You guys can use this one.
okay. Are you guys ready for this?
But,
Yeah, I asked if there's gonna be any more.
That wasn't supposed to be there.
okay.
The 49.
There you go.
Oh.
Though it is completely possible to do it all with fractions. We just aren't there yet.
Are we
We aren't that on that
Eventually, I
power
might throw
level.
one at you.
Really? But that's not supposed to be 40.
No.
No, it's supposed to be a 4.
You
I apologize.
Do you play Uno in your office?
Not often, like during SRT when my calc kids don't have anything to do, they'll play Uno. Or like some of my classes are really small, so if I'm missing like over half the class, we can't do anything. And usually at the end of the year, I try to do a game day in each of my classes. So I like it for that reason. School is out like the 20, like we talking for the year,
Yeah.
May 23rd.
was the 23rd. I thought it was before, I thought it was later. I thought it was like the 27th and commencement's like the 29th. So we have like very little,
I haven't looked at it since the very, very beginning.
yeah, I was thinking,
It is getting later though.
Oh, yeah.
Last year we got later.
and next year's I'm pretty sure they say it's gonna be toward the end of May again too. So, I don't know. There are some schools that get out in June though, so. I guess. Also, I would like to incentivize you guys. If every single one of you passes this Unit 4 test, I will throw a pizza party in here. You all, I don't care what you pass it with, but you all have to pass it before the curve. Okay?
This next test?
This next test. I will throw you a pizza party.
Come on, boys. It's time to pass the test.
I might think about that.
Why not a 3-foot by 5-foot piece of paper?
Okay, are we ready to do this problem?
Yo.
Since I fixed it and made it a whole lot easier.
Yes.
Okay, so I end up with v squared minus 4v equals
I was not gonna-
25. I need to fill in that c term. That c term is equal to my middle term cut in half and then squared. So -4 divided by 2 is -2. -2 squared is 4. So this becomes v squared minus 4v plus 4 equals 25 plus 4. My left side is going to factor into v minus 2 squared because -2 times -2 is 4 and -2 plus -2 is -4. And then 25 plus 4 is 29. Where do I go from here? Yep, both sides, square and a square root cancel each other out, which leaves me with v minus 2 equals positive negative square root of 29. What perfect square can I take out of 29? Pretty sure it's a prime number. So it would stay square root of 29, and I would just add the 2 over, which leaves me with 2 plus or minus the square root of 29, and then you'd separate those and put them in the curly brackets.
Yeah, how is it?
Questions, concerns, or issues with that?
Nope, just messed up on.
Well, that was my
See,
fault.
yeah, I went no the other, not that thing. I just messed up on the 4s. I had a positive 2 and then I got a negative at the end. I added negative 2.
Okay, last one. And then I will turn you loose for the day.
Take it there.
Wait, in the last problem, we were adding -4 to, we're adding 29 to -4. Wouldn't it be 25?
Yeah, that's what we had. And then we completed the square and had to add the 4 again.
This is stuff.
Okay, solve this one.
What's you do?
Mr. McIntyre, where am I going to start?
You're going to start with minus the 9x onto the other side. You have to get your variables together.
Continue to ask me.
Mr. Roberts, what do I do next?
I just said I had no idea.
Exactly, perfect time to learn.
There it is.
Yes.
I have to complete the square by having that C term. Do not help him. How do I find that C term?
Oh, you have to, split the 6 in half or divide it by 2.
And then do what with that answer?
Square root it.
Opposite. We square it, not square root it.
Yeah.
So then 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9.
Yeah.
So I get x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals -1 plus 9. Make sure you add that value to both sides to keep your equation in balance. I simplify it. What number multiplies by itself to get 3 and adds by itself to get 6?
3.
So I get x plus 3 squared on the left.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. It does kind of look nice once we get it.
And then equals -1 plus 9, which is 8 on the right. My goal is to get x by itself, so I need to square root both sides. Square root and a square cancel, which leaves me with x plus 8 equals positive negative square root of 8. What perfect square can I take out of 8?
None.
4, right? So 8 becomes the square root of 4 times the square root of 2.
Wait, what happened?
And
Look, there we go.
So I split 8 up into 4 times 2 and separated them into their individual square roots because I know the square root of 4 is going to come out to be a whole number. What whole number? 2. Square root of 4 is 2. So now I have x plus 3 equals positive negative 2 times the square root of 2. And then we need to subtract the 3 over. And I get x equals -3 plus or minus 2 square root of 2. I will separate that into the 2 problems, 1 addition, 1 subtraction, and put it in my curly brackets. Root 2, yep. And -3 minus 2 root 2. Questions, concerns, or issues?
oh, that was kind of.
Is anybody starting to maybe warm up to this a little bit?
Well, that one just
Kinda,
put me
but I
off.
used the whole square root melodrama.
I was until we got to this problem.
Okay, we are going to stop here for today. Okay, So you should be able to do some of the homework problems that do not contain anything in front of your squared term. You should be able to solve all of those, and then tomorrow we'll hit another part of the lesson. Okay? Thank you.
Now my confidence is down because of that last problem. Are there gonna be a lot of those or?
I can't